the market is hardening, and I don't think it's going to slow down. I mean, we've seen recently a big breach. A big name company was, named in a ransomware deal where their third party vendor who was building computers for them, some of their designs leaked, and now they're going to leak those out on the internet unless they pay a $50 million ransom. But really, where the damage is done is on the small and medium sized businesses, because if you don't have the insurance in place, it's financially crippling, and it can put you out of business. And Nicole's going to talk a little bit about this, but all the different things that happens, reputational harm, loss of customers, those things have to be remedied. And so the market's only hardening, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we want to get on it.
Is there something that routinely happens where people think that they're covered, that only the cyber insurance policy covers?
Yeah, and I think Matt could probably speak a little bit more to this, but a lot of other policies have started to include cyber exclusions. So they will specifically exclude any losses related to cyber events, because that's not what, your property cover, your E&O policy is intending to cover. Matt, I don't know if you want to add any more to that, but that's kind of where the standalone cyber markets have really started to shine, because all of these other lines of coverages have started to specifically exclude any losses due to cyber events.
Correct. And just to expand on that a little bit, they're excluding anything with the cyber, but yet some of the policies you will see them attach like a little bit of cyber coverage. Sometimes it may be 25,000 or something like that. And people say, oh, well, I've got cyber on my policy. Well, it's really watered down, and you need to be careful of those. And that's something that we at Watkins really look at. We want to make sure that that coverage is actually covering the things you think it is. And so we're proponents really of going out and trying to find a standalone policy. There are some policies that, if they add a little bit on there, it's okay, but you're not going to get the coverage.
The top two attacks that we see are ransomware and fraudulent transfers, and they occur through email addresses and bank accounts, which every single business has nowadays. Ransomware, it's the number one most frequently occurring attack. Really, all it is a computer virus that gets downloaded onto your system and then holds your data hostage. The number two attack that we see is fraudulent transfers. This is where a hacker will essentially pose as a trusted third party, maybe an internal employee, one of your customers, one of your vendors, and tries to trick you into sending payment to a fraudulent account. The number two attack that we see is fraudulent transfers. This is where a hacker will essentially pose as a trusted third party, maybe an internal employee, one of your customers, one of your vendors, and tries to trick you into sending payment to a fraudulent account. This actually happened very recently to a school district just outside of Austin, Manor ISD. They had someone pose as one of their construction vendors. They were working on a new building within the district, and they requested payment be sent to a new bank account. They did something very similar to what's shown on the screen right now, created a fake email with just one additional letter or one letter removed from the email address. Number one cause of cyber attacks is just human error. So the person from the district sent out $2.3 million directly to a hacker's bank account, completely unrecoverable. This is a really, really big exposure for the construction industry, actually, specifically, because they are not heavily reliant on their computer systems, but cyber insurance is there to really protect their bank accounts. When they're working on projects, there are a lot of parties involved, large sums of money being passed back and forth. And these fake emails nowadays, they look real. It's no longer the whole broken English, hey, it's grandma, I'm stuck in Africa, please click here to release me. It's things like this that say, oh, a close friend sent you an e-card, or it looks like it's coming from one of your legitimate vendors, or it might actually be coming from your legitimate vendor if they've had their email inbox compromised. So phishing emails and human error, it's the number one cause of these attacks. And that's why even those large multinational global companies that are putting $100 million into their cybersecurity, they still experience these attacks, because it just takes one person one day to not really be thinking clearly, and it completely shuts the business down and costs them large sums of money. Common question that we get asked is, how do you decide to pay the ransom? Are you always going to pay the ransom demand? Are you going to, not negotiate with terrorists? And it's kind of a case by case basis. Usually, if you have a clean backup, then we can just kind of strong arm the hacker and reboot from that backup. I would say 4 times out of 5 that the backup is also infiltrated, because the hackers, when they get into your system, they usually will sit dormant for about 3 to 6 months prior to ever activating that virus. And if you back up your information with that dormant virus on it, once it's turned on, now your backups are compromised as well. That is why having offline backups and things that are disconnected from the network are so important. But if your backup's compromised, we're kind of, put into a corner where you really have to pay that ransom demand. It's either that or rebuild all your information from scratch. And I have an example for you guys of one we actually paid out on our books. This one happened to a manufacturer, and they experienced a ransomware attack where the hacker was actually able to get into their system just by cracking the administrator's password. He did not have very strong password controls in place. They also did not have any additional securities to kind of red flag this remote entry that should not have been occurring. And once they were in, they spread the virus to every single computer system that touched the network. Well, luckily for this manufacturer, they actually had their manufacturing systems and back-end administrative systems completely separate. So during this downtime, they were able to still process and continue on with any orders they currently had in place. But for 3 days, there was no access to their CRM system, their CAD software, their emails, and they couldn't take in any new orders. Now, the payout on this claim, there's about $40,000 to the system rectification and the actual ransom payment. Their backups were compromised in this instance. So we paid 3 Bitcoin, which at the time was a lot less than the value that it is today. But the biggest chunk of this claim was the business interruption. As I said, $131,000 because they weren't able to take in any new orders for 3 days. And this was not some $100 billion manufacturer. They were about 24 million in annual revenue, so I'd say a nice mid-sized manufacturer. 3 days they were down for, and that's $131,000 in lost revenue. Matt, do you think that any of your clients would be okay or comfortable with losing out on $131,000 in a 3-day period?
No, even if they had the money, they don't want that to happen. And unfortunately, if it happens to a business that isn't prepared for it, it could put them out of business. And it's a real cost. And so we try to make sure that we discuss this with our customers and our clients and make them aware of these costs, because if something gets you like that and you're not ready for it, it could be the end.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think most business owners, look at these insurance policies and know that, at least, in the time that something really bad happened, they're going to get reimbursed for some of the punches they took. But, I'm thinking like the lingering disruption that happens as you try to get your systems back up and you're making sure all the data is there that you need. And it's just, there's going to be lingering issues for time to come. So it's great to have these policies. It's great to be in a good posture to where, you have the policy and you have the confidence that this kind of stuff can't happen. And then there's companies in that 15 to 300 employee range where they don't really want to go hire their own IT person. They hire a company like Contigo, and Contigo, which we specialize in and rolling into and helping our clients with products, processes. And so we come in with a myriad of products. And in this particular case, this is kind of what we do and how we look at the network. So first and foremost, y'all heard more email stories today about people getting ransomware. They're clicking on stuff. It's all of that stuff. I don't want to see, an MSP does not want to see the employees even get the option to make a decision on what to click on. So there's processes. I would encourage everybody to do multi-factor authentication, have a really good commercial grade spam filter. There's products that are now coming out that alert you when rule changes have happened in Outlook and where the bad guys manipulate behind the scenes and they start doing things. There's all kinds of products out there for that. And then, there's the servers, right? I mean, there's administrators that are on those servers that may be like the CEO and some executives. If anybody gets added or taken away, there needs to be alerts on that. That's a very, very important piece of the puzzle on how ransomware gets spread. And Contigo and companies like us, they put those kind of products and processes in place. I'm gonna give y'all some ways to contact us. Matt Shomlin over at Watkins Insurance Group. If you have any questions about insurance policies, I can vouch for these guys. We have Contigo, which is very keen on our cyber insurance policies and making sure that we represent ourselves well as through all this stuff. We work with Watkins Insurance. They've been really, really great for us. And then if you have any questions about your IT security posture, you can reach out to Fuller at contigotx.com. Both Austin-based businesses. And if you have anything specific for Nicole, let us know. We'll send it on, and she can highlight that.